Hello, and welcome to the Crypto Beat, where we discuss what's happening right now in the crypto space. My name is Tim Copeland, and I'm the editor in chief of The Block. Joining me today, we have Mark Karpeles, former CEO of Mt. Gox and current CTO of LepX. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, I see that's fine. Hello, and thank you for having me today.
Awesome, thank you for joining.
Eh,
Before we get started, I'd like to mention the Block is hosting a crypto conference this year with some of crypto's biggest names. Head to emergence.xyz and use the code TheCryptoBeat, all one word, all lowercase, for 20% off. All right, and now we're going to go straight into it. And I guess my first question is a week ago you tweeted in French, I have returned. What prompted you to come back to the crypto industry?
Uh, Quite a lot of things prompted me to come back to the crypto industry, but the main thing is really the pull from people inside the industry who contacted me, um, actually stayed in touch during the whole process of the Mongoose bankruptcy. I've had people contacting me since 2016 and so going on, um, inviting me into conferences and doing different things to try to get me back into cryptocurrency. Uh, After what happened with Mongox, I was really thinking that I would not have to do anything to do anymore with cryptocurrencies and that nobody would want to see me anymore. But it turned out that there were a lot of people, a lot more than I had expected at least, that extended their hand toward me and tried to pull me back, invited me and so on. So the first time I actually went back to a crypto conference was in 2016. So it was only 2 years after the Mongoose bankruptcy. Everything was still very fuzzy. Uh, I was still pending trial. It was a very difficult situation, and yet uh, there was a very welcoming public. For I did a lecture. I don't remember exactly what I think it's related to the blockchain technology. But I did the lecture. Everyone was quite happy with it. After the lecture, I had actually queue of people waiting to get selfies with me, and but it was quite different from what I was expecting at the time. So that's really the main thing that brought me back into cryptocurrency are people inside cryptocurrency.
Okay, interesting. And then with the new exchange, was it your idea, or did it like another team of people like come to you and say, "Hey, we want you to, you know, be on the team for this"?
It's a little bit of both because when back a few years ago I started working on Ngox, and I looked at all the other exchanges that existed. I expected a much broader and diverse industry. And I found out that there was only a handful of very large exchanges, and all the rest were either unregistered or sometimes just even scams that somehow managed to appear as somehow somewhat legit exchange. So I was quite surprised on one hand, and I thought that the industry would have moved further I mean, as a whole. And I see that there are still a lot of things that remain to be done that are not done. The exchanges still work a lot similarly to the way Mongox worked back in 2014. So yeah, I think there need to be something done here. So at first, I expected to do this by with Ngox pushing exchanges forward, trying to push people to implement better security, better transparency by giving notes on these kind of things. But now I do think that it might be even better to create an example of what can be done in terms of transparency and security, and to uh, basically create what can be done with what we have today in terms of state-of-the-art technology uh, to help the industry move forward.
Okay, and you're obviously, most well known in the industry for being in charge of the Mt. Gox exchange when it collapsed, which was a huge event, right? Back then, in relative
Mm.
terms, was a huge amount of the Bitcoin trading, and kind of caused this sort of longest ever crypto bankruptcy process. Um, what made you think an exchange was the right move, like another
Uh,
exchange?
Yep. I mean, sorry, actually, my last response was not complete because I say there are two little bit of both. So after looking at the market, I saw there were a lot to be done, but there was actually someone who wanted really to go into the uh, exchange, want to launch an exchange, and contacted me through a common friend. And I did warn him. I mean, I have a past of running an exchange. We know what happened. I might not be the best person to run exchange, but he said the exact reverse thing that for him, I was the person with the most experience of what could go wrong, and I am the best person to run an exchange today in the industry. So I, I mean, I discussed it a little bit, but I was finally convinced, and we are where we are now with an exchange ready to launch this month. And yeah,
Sure thing.
mm,
Um, but I guess, yeah, so sort of how can anyone know to trust you with their money again? I think is a question I'm sure many people are wondering.
yeah, and I do think that's an important question to have not only for Edipex but any exchange out there is how to know how to trust the exchange. Uh, what I'm planning to do here is to create something that's fully transparent, fully audited, make it possible not to have to trust the exchange because other people trust it because it's been good so far, but really to be able to verify and know what you're dealing with. Uh, I see right now on the market, you've got, if you look at the top 100 exchanges on the information website, you will see like 90% you don't even know who is behind the exchange. You don't even know where it's being run from. It's a very opaque world even today, and I do think we can improve this a lot. And you wouldn't need to trust to blindly trust Edipex. You would be able to look inside and see what you're going into.
Yeah, sure thing. You talking about transparency and knowing the people behind the exchange. Um, and I saw your site says that you have a team of crypto natives. Who else is part of the team?
We do have a lot of people, like not many people that are very well known in the community because I mean we may have some people joining afterward, but we have a technical team which is very um, top notch on the technology. Uh, how to say this? So basically, I spent a lot of time to gather the right people with the right skills uh, to be able to build uh, different kind of things. Initially, I didn't expect to build an exchange, but I built a team over the past 5 years that is people that have a very high technology level. And we decided to, I mean, when I decided to go for the exchange project and we move forward with that, we've put together our skill sets to get things done. And I do think we have done something very nice with Edipex. We're using all the uh, latest technology in terms of security, different things that can be done. Especially, I'm thinking about MPC computation for anything that's related to crypto signatures and a few other things. And the most important is we've built the exchange in a way that's fully splitting the different parts of the exchange. We have the broker part, which is the part that deals with customers directly. What you would, I mean, because of the broker part, it's basically what a broker would do in a regular market thing. Uh, you have the actual market, which is a matching engine, which is a fully separated system that we plan. as soon as it makes sense to separate into a completely independent entity to make sure the market is fully independent and audited as is. And you have the custodial part, which is also fully separated and works with both system we use internally and external custodial providers. And yeah, the idea of separating everything and making all those parts work together is a way for the system to be easier to audit because you don't have to see everything at once. You can just go through the different parts. And at the same time, you can also have a better view of what goes between, for example, the broker and the trading part. So you can make sure that when orders are placed, they are directly sent properly and so on, which is something, as far as I know today, no exchange does.
Okay, and you said, but sorry if you can hear background noise over here, it's a bit noisy, but you said about like building a team over 5 years. At what point did you sort of decide and start building the exchange? Like, have you been building this for like 2 years, 3 years?
Uh, Not that long, actually. We did spend some time to get things together. We're using also a lot of elements that we've built over time that, for example, for the crypto storage, that were built as a generic way to securely store crypto. That makes sense, of course, in the case of an exchange. We do also have a lot of elements we built a long time ago as we explored how an exchange worked, and we did some research on this because, I mean, one of our main purpose as a team is also to do research and development, which means that we will also do projects not for the sake of creating a project, but for the sake of seeing how things work and really analyzing all the internals of the system. And when the time came to work on the exchange, we already had a lot of parts we could use for this.
Okay. And how many days until the exchange goes live?
I can just tell you for now it's going this month. We will do exact announce probably in a week or so, or maybe less, of when it's going live.
Yeah. Okay. And why are you focusing on Europe, particularly?
Different reasons. One is I'm from France, which is in Europe, so I'm quite familiar with the environment over there. The other reason is that Europe is deploying a new regulation called MiCA, which is probably right now in the world one of the best crypto regulations. Adding to this, that Europe is a fairly large um, area, which means that there's a matching need for access to crypto.
Sure. I think,
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, I thought I saw you saying about how Japan was actually quite good um, in terms
And
of the sort of regulate, like the fallout from FTX there wasn't so bad because of like the regulations there. Like, was that an option too?
uh, actually, Japan is quite difficult. Many regulations today are struggling between the choice of putting more regulation or helping innovation. And Japan decided to completely stop on the innovation side and put everything into regulations, which can be probably best described by the fact that there hasn't been a single new exchange in Japan for the past 4 years or so. Even when Binance decided to come to Japan, they couldn't get a license because the regulator, the process to apply for the license exists, but nobody has gotten a license for so many years. They had to actually buy an existing exchange to rename it and operate in Japan. So right now, Japan is a very difficult market to enter.
Yeah, gotcha. And will your exchange be open to US users?
Not initially. We are aiming to be a global exchange, which means we will be applying for licenses worldwide. And as soon as we get the license in different territories, we will be providing waiting list. So people in those regions can be informed when the exchange is available.
Okay, and what kind of security tools and features do you have in place on the exchange, and how do those compare with sort of, Mount Gox? Obviously, it's a very long time ago. Many things have changed.
Yeah, so many things have changed. I, of course, cannot go into detail of all the security that's being implemented, both for security reasons and also because that would be spending a lot of time to talk about something that would be difficult to understand for many people out there. I'm still going to go through the fact that Mongox wouldn't have gone bankrupt with the technology we have today. Back in 2011, when Mongox started, we didn't have HD wallets, we didn't have seed phrases, or all the things that we have today that make management of cryptocurrencies so much easier. And for managing crypto assets at the scale of an exchange, uh, we have no solutions like uh, server-side MPC systems that work a lot better than what we had. I mean, back in 2011, we didn't have anything like that at all. For the system we're implementing, of course, MPC wallets and separate custody of assets, which means we will be able, unlike Mongox, to audit in real time all the assets managed by the exchange. And of course, we will be also implementing a system that's up to par with the European payment service provider regulation, even if we don't need to comply with this regulation specifically. It's a regulation I'm quite familiar with, and the team working on this is familiar with. And I believe it does make a lot of sense for exchanges to at least comply with the regulation. So it's also quite a hefty regulation because Europe has a lot of members, which means typically regulation contain a lot of details. But the final word is that it's basically the PSD2 regulation is what's used by banks, financial entities, and so on in Europe to provide a service that's safe and secure. And by following those regulations, I'm hoping that we can do the same as a crypto exchange.
Okay, and did when FTX collapsed, um, did you think that created more room in the market for new exchanges? Because I mean, that was sort of, it was definitely growing in popularity, and then sort of, you know, led, resulted in definitely at least one fewer option for people.
Actually, I don't think the market is very crowded even today, or even when FTX was still around. There's still a need for an exchange that will be more transparent and more um, easier to use for new users. This is one of the main thing I have to say about exchanges and the crypto industry in general right now, as of today, is that for newcomers, it's very difficult to get into it. When you set up your first wallet, you're going to have to write a bunch of words on paper, which is not, I mean, you need to understand the risk involved with doing that. And most newcomers don't know, so they will take a picture of the seed phrase or they will just lose the paper. Uh, and I don't think it's their fault because it's just that the process is too convoluted and not user friendly enough. And that's why with Apex, one of the first thing we're doing is, I mean, we've done actually is to release a wallet that also use the same MPC technology we're using for the server-side system. And that allows the user to set up wallet safer and easier way. So you just need to choose a password, uh, activate your biometric authentication. So it could be Face ID on iPhone. provide your phone number and verify SMS, which is typically the same process you would have to go through any banks. It's a process that is defined, for example, in Europe under the PSD2 regulation. This process allows us to set up MPC wallet for the user where the user has control of their own keys. We do help the user by storing a part of the key, but not enough to do anything with it. Just help the user restore the wallet in case the key is lost. But at the same time, we provide a service that's easier to use and likely safer for newcomers who don't know to protect their seed phrase as a service for this wallet. And the goal is to also on the exchange side, try to provide something that's easier to use while not cutting in features or making sure that basically this can be used by people who are on Mongox or experienced traders at the same time.
Okay, so to clarify, is it self-custodial? As in, is that option available for people?
For the wallet, you can, I mean, it is self-custodial. You manage your own keys. Elipex will only store 1/3 of the key, which won't allow Elipex to do anything. The goal is really only to help you restore your wallet if there's any issue. The other two parts of your key are stored, one on your device inside the secure enclave, which is basically high security part of the mobile phone that's protected by the biometric authentication. Typically, it's something that's really linked to the device itself, so you cannot move it to another device. And the third part will be protected with the password you choose, so it's encrypted. And it's stored into your device cloud provider. So if you use, for example, iCloud, it will be backed up typically to iCloud or to Google Cloud if you have Android, which means that, for example, if you need to send a transaction and a day-to-day thing, you can do it fully from your own device. You don't need us to do anything. But let's say you lose your phone and you restore your phone from the backup you have with your phone provider. You would have only 1/3 of your key. You could then use the second part we have at Elipex to restore your whole wallet.
Okay, so will people is it a decentralized exchange for trading, or will people deposit funds from their wallet into the exchange and then that's when it starts trading?
The exchange itself is fully separate from the wallet. So for the exchange to access the exchange, it's a centralized exchange. You have to deposit funds to trade. There are different reasons for that. One comes from, of course, the ease of use, but also the ability to provide a high-speed trading for users and make sure that when you get an order, it's placed, it's executed instantly. So basically what you would need for spot trading. We may offer other options in the future, but for now, what we're going to open this month is a really basically what Mongox used to provide, but with today's technology.
Yeah, and do you think you can compete with giants like Binance with this sort of setup?
The goal is to compete, maybe not in terms of features, because building everything that Binance has today may be a lot of time for some features that may or may not be useful, and some that we may not be able to actually deploy in terms of regulations. But what we really want to do is to compete in terms of transparency, make sure that people can know that when you place an order with the system, you know what's happening with it, and so on. And at the same time, we will also be an exchange that's based in Europe under the MiCA regulation, which is fairly strong and offers quite a lot of protections to consumers.
Okay. And then when back on FTX, when FTX collapsed, did you feel like finally I won't be known as the guy who did the biggest crypto exchange disaster?
To be quite honest, there have been quite a lot of things happening after Mongox. You have in Japan CoinCheck, which was also hacked for a few $100 million of crypto. FTX does not compare with Mongox on many things. First, the scale is completely different. The loss of $8 billion is completely like tenfold, more than tenfold what was lost with Mongox. But at the same time, Mongox was hacked by hackers that were later arrested, and this year finally pleaded guilty, while FTX was just mismanaged. I mean, it's probably even worse than that. I don't have all the elements, and I think we will have more things coming on. But very clearly, FTX was not meant to be a clean exchange, but was much closer to a criminal enterprise from day one.
And how do you think the effects of the collapse of Mt. Gox compares to FTX? And is the market in a better position to handle such events than it was at the time?
Uh, Same. I mean, when Mongox happened, Mongox was very large part of the market, like 70 to 80% of trading happened on Mongox, which means that, of course, it had a lot of impact on the market. Back in the day, there were not as many exchanges as we have today. And there were still a lot of things that needed to be done. Still, I do believe that with Mongox, we managed to avoid a lot of the negative effect on the market, thanks to the way Mongox went into a legal process. That even if it, in the end, took 10 years, people who were customers of Mongox knew that there was a process going on that would eventually lead to something. I'm actually it did take a lot of time, and took a much longer than I was hoping for. But I do think that with Mongox, a lot of things were clearer than with FTX. Because when FTX went into bankruptcy, the CEO that took over the company was not really, had to deal with a lot of missing corporate records and things like that. I think it's quite easy to find information on what happened with FTX instead of me going through everything. But the big difference with Mongox, which had record bookkeeping and went through a fully legal process that did take a lot of time, but today brought everything back Bitcoins despite everything that happened. And FTX, which had virtually no correct accounting. I do remember that a lot of people talked about how FTX accounting was run on QuickBooks, among other things. So yeah, it really doesn't compare. And FTX also had a much smaller impact because right now we have a market which is much larger. People can use other exchanges. And so there were a number of red flags around FTX. Just the fact that Alameda and FTX existed together, that allowed people that knew about, how to look about these kind of things to avoid working with FTX. So overall, I do believe that the impact was much lower, but there's a number of factors around this.
Okay, and Isn't it kind of crazy how the difference in speed between the two? Like, I mean, FTX, the record keeping, the sheer scale of it, the sheer number of assets, just the complexities involved across like so many countries versus Mt. Gox and FTX. Mostly it's 2 years and it seems to be pretty much wrapping up, whereas like Mt. Gox took what, a decade.
Yes. There's once again a number of things that need to be seen. One thing is Mongox was in Japan, which might not be the fastest country in terms of administrative operations and trials. But more than that, Mongox was the first time such event happened. And while Mongox went into bankruptcy, the price of Bitcoin raised. The bankruptcy actually was in danger of not being a bankruptcy anymore because the assets Mongox held had more value than the debts. It basically at the 4 to 5 years mark, the process was moved from bankruptcy to civil rehabilitation, which means that everything had to be redone from the beginning. In the case of FTX, the bankruptcy of FTX actually was able, I mean, first was one from the US, which is a much more international country, to say the least, where things can move much more faster. But FTX could also um, take a lot from existing history and looking, for example, even at the Mongox bankruptcy and see what kind of challenges there were to move faster and get things done very quickly. So yeah, I do think I hope that I mean FTX did get some uh, hints among other things from what happened with Mongox in how to get things wrapped up faster.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the plan with Ungox, the crypto rating agency? And I was kind of curious: are you going to be ending up? Are you going to be rating your own agency, and what score do you plan to give it?
For Ngox, I did have some trouble to get things on the rails with investors typically investing. I mean, for any investor fund that would be able to invest to Mongox, they would typically have investment in other crypto projects, which meant potentially conflicts of interest. I had to go through different things to finally decide that Mongox would run better not as a company making profit by providing information and exchanging and so on, but as a non-profit that would be run transparently by someone else. I would still, at least at the beginning, uh, provide the initial baseline for Ngox, which is the goal of Ngox is to make sure that another Mongox cannot happen. Uh, but I planning to run this as the non-profit foundation that would itself also be transparent, funded not by investors but by donations, which means that there are um, no uh, risk of conflict of interest with donors because there's nothing to return to the donors, and that would be run by someone else in a fully independent way. The only thing I'm doing right now for Unbox is I've secured a number of donations to run the things initially. I'm looking for the right team. Uh, and as soon as I do find the right people to run it, it will be fully independent, which means that Unbox may rate Elipex, but it would not be me rating myself. It would be the team at Unbox rating Elipex from a completely outside point of view. And I would retain no ownership and no control over Ungox in any way.
Okay. And I saw you gave out like NFTs to Mt. Gox, like former Mt. Gox users. Are you going to give
Yes.
them, say, priority access to the new exchange? I mean, you could tell them, surely lightning doesn't strike twice.
uh, yeah, I mean, I do plan to offer actually discounts for anyone with a Mongox NFT. I don't have exact amounts yet because that's something that we're still tweaking up to the end. But I expect it to be consequent for very large discount, like more than 50%, maybe 100% for a while. Basically allowing Mongox customers to gain something and this NFT to be worth something more than just badge of I've been there. I'm also hoping for Gox to offer holders of a Mongox NFT some kind of discount or part to information for free. And we'll continue to see what can be done on what kind of services can be offered to people holding this NFT.
Sure. Is this because you feel that you owe them, to try and like pay them back in some way?
Yes, I do believe so because even if Mongox customers today are receiving amounts that are valued more than what they lost, it's still only slightly less than 20% in number of Bitcoins. And I do believe that while, I mean, I did my best at the time with Mongox, I was only like 24 years old when I took over Mongox, and things. I didn't have the experience I have today, to say the least. And uh, despite all of this, I do think there are still things I need to do or can do for people who were with Mongox at the time. So my goal is really to continue, as I said, seeing what can be done and do something with it.
Yeah. And what was it like for you when the repayments finally went out? Like, was it just like a sigh of relief? Like it's finally over? Like, how did you react after that happened?
Yes, it was a relief. It didn't come in one go because actually for customers, they didn't come in one go either. It took months because repayments actually started in December last year. So it's been almost, I mean, close to more than 6 months, but not a year yet since repayments have started. Just the fact that repayments finally start to go through was a relief. I saw the cash payments going first. When Bitcoins are started to get uh, delivered and people confirm that they received their Bitcoin, this was probably the biggest relief I had so far in this case. I know the bankruptcy is not finished and is still likely to take 2, 3, maybe 5 years. But the fact that customers were repaid, maybe I didn't follow all of it actually because there are lump sum payment, partial repayments, and so on. So I don't know the exact um, uh, outcome for everyone. I know that there will be some people repaid at the end, but I've seen a lot of people repaid already, which is very good. And I'm going anyway to continue to monitor the situation, make sure that anything I can do for Mongox is done. And I'm actually looking forward to the day I can finally say the Mongox bankruptcy has finished. But yeah, as of today, repayments have started, which really is allowing me to move forward, go to the next step, which is now Elipex.
Yeah. Was the trustee ever quite open with you about it? Because it seemed like a lot of creditors just couldn't get really any information out of the trustee on the process.
I do get chances to talk with the trustee and exchange with him, but he typically only asks me about specific things like for the Code Lab lawsuits or things like that, and does not tell me much about repayments or anything that don't need me to move forward actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And do you happen to know
I
like
don't
what
have much information.
yeah? Do you happen
Sorry?
to know like what percentage of Bitcoin has been handed out?
I don't have exact numbers on top of my head, but I do think that most of the, I mean, the majority has been repaid so far. But I guess I could look into it to have an exact number as of today. I think there's still people that with BitGo that haven't received the payment yet, but that may not be the case anymore. So really, that's an ongoing issue. So things can change quite quickly.
Yeah. Okay. And how closely are you watching the outcome of the US presidential election? Did you watch the debate last night?
I didn't watch the debate, but I'm planning to read about it as soon as there are articles going through what exactly was said. I'm watching this quite closely because, I mean, it will have an impact for the whole world, one way or another. Uh, I just don't know which side is the right side, basically.
Okay, and just to wrap up, like, where do you see the crypto industry? Like, how do you see it changing over the next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Uh, I do think quite a few things are changing already. Anyway, like Europe implementing MiCA is a big thing that is going to make it possible to launch a lot of legit projects from Europe. We're already seeing a number of stablecoins with very big backers launching in Europe. And while the crypto world until now has been a lot of China versus USA in terms of exchanges and projects overall, Europe is trying to put itself on the global stage. And I do think it's doing it in a very nice way. And with Elipex, we are planning to be part of this, of course. But I'm looking forward to see actually what's coming out from this because uh, it's been 10 years since Mongox happened. Back in the days, there were no regulations at all. Uh, when we went to see the Japanese regulators, we had actually a very funny answer because they spent, I think, 1 year thinking about it. Uh, is they are the financial regulator. We have them do Mongox as a Bitcoin platform need to be regulated. And the response was, we do not think that Bitcoin is a financial asset, so we cannot respond to you because we only regulate financial assets, which is neither a yes or a no, just kind of gray, but I guess it's very typical of Japan in a way. So yeah, back in the day, things were kind of foggy at best, and sometimes it could change very quickly. So it was not, I mean, clear as it is today, where we have regulations that clearly define how things can be done. We know which countries are more friendly to crypto projects than others. And I do think that in the US, for example, politics are watching crypto a lot. So they're, depending on where things go, we could see a lot of things change in the US too, I believe.
Awesome, thank you. And that's all we have for today. I want to thank Mark for joining. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, or retweet on Twitter. Remember, we have a 20% discount for emergence using the code TheCryptoBeat. And make sure to read the blog to stay informed on everything crypto. Thanks, and see you on the next one.
Yep. Thank you for having me, and